So then, today, I would want us to think about whether we think climate change is a threat to peace and security. Because I think if these guys, that's when they take action, we need to tell them this is something that is going to affect all of us. And it's a war that is not like any other war we know. So that's one question. And the other question is about how we as people, how do we take action? Because oftentimes we talk a lot, like today, we're going to discuss wonderful things, but then what? What can we do? And for me, I think we should not, sometimes we see the little things we do and then we feel we are not doing enough. But I think I would like to encourage you to do that little thing that you're able to do. So please don't stop, because oftentimes people want to do big things so that they are known, oh, I have made an impact. But you know, you are making an impact. It's only that you can't see it. Today, coming here to discuss about refugees, about mass migration, you're already making an impact by just joining us. So please, the little things that we do to help manage migration is important. Those are the two things I wanted to put out there and see what you think. Thank you.
I must admit, I didn't understand the first question. The second question was easy in the sense of how to take action. What can we do? Quite interesting, but the first question was more,
Yeah, it's like the international community, the system has a way of responding to what is a threat. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and who defines a threat? Who defines it? Mm-hmm. So it's the same people, you know, they go and sit the UN Security Council, they go and sit and then they decide what is a threat to peace and security. But now I'm challenging them. We, the people, we know what threats are to all of us. And I give a very good example, climate change. If we look deeper, that one is even a bigger threat than what we think is a threat to peace and security. So my question is, can't we push this to them? How can we make them realize this is actually a threat to peace and security, so that they can take action? Because that's how the system works. So I don't know whether I've made my question clear, Hans.
Yeah. Yes, you did. Also, yeah. For me, for me, you did. I don't know what the others say, but I think if they are.
And I'm happy to jump in with some thoughts on that, because, you know, for a long time, and Dickson, I like how you framed that, because I think changing the lens, so we have to figure out how to change kind of the institution and policymakers' lens on how they see climate change as a threat. So in most nations at the highest levels, there is an understanding that climate change is a threat to national security, especially when it comes to kind of their military, or you know, there's an understanding there. But I think it's because on more of a conceptual level, most people see climate as, you know, a natural thing, and then conflict as something that happens between people or nations or organizations. And we need to shift the lens a little bit in, climate crisis, because we used to call it resource wars, right? Natural resource wars. A while ago, I think it was probably a decade ago, we would look at things kind of resource conflicts, and we would say this is a national security issue. But when we look at that, we're actually talking about water. We're also talking about, minerals and oil and gas and things like that. But we're also talking about the right to have clean water, the right to live in a place that, you can have a home, you can find food. Those are natural resources as well, and those are affected by climate, and those can then be something that dramatically affect national security. And I brought this up when I was talking in my point before in the main session there. If we look at rivers are highly undervalued as natural resources that can cause major conflict. We have the Nile right now that's on the verge of a huge nation to nation conflict. And in Colorado, for a very long time, because of the dwindling water resources, Colorado, Utah, down into Mexico, the lack of water and access to water in that region could cause a treaty right violation, which is a national security issue. And so if we can change the way that we look at climate and talk about it as less of a natural disaster and more of an effect on our resources and rights to live a healthy life, I think that will dramatically change the conversation.
If you take that example from Colorado River, so there was less water, right? For me
the Colorado River is
right.
Basically, the lack of water because of climate change, because of and also because of overusage. I mean, again, when we talk about systems, a lot of different things go into this. Overuses, the water allocation from the river is, it's inequitable. It doesn't go to the tribal lands as the ways it should. I mean, there's so many violations that you can think of in kind of this one river of how it's a national security issue. And then as the access to water goes down, the more of a crisis it becomes. And also a human rights issue, because who then gets that water?
Did people move because of this?
Without doing more research into it, I couldn't say if people have been moving. I know that it's getting more and more news. I've been following it since 2008, 2009, just the Colorado River itself. But what is happening is now there's negotiations between states and who gets what water. And when we talk about access to the table of who's talking about that and who has the right to that water, rivers flow through states, through nations, they cross borders, right? And who has access to that is usually determined the closer to the access point. And who decides who gets that water is the critical thing. And if you look at the Colorado River for just an example, or you could look at the Nile River as well as another example, because that's a very hot button topic right now and very important. That it's who's at the table making these decisions. And in Colorado, I can guarantee you it's not equitable. Or sorry, the Colorado River. I keep saying in Colorado. The Colorado River, it's not equitable in the decision making. So, and I'm sure, and I haven't looked as closely with the Nile River, but you look at any of these resource-driven conflicts, it's not the major stakeholders or the people who depend on it who are usually at the table.
Have there been stakeholder dialogues in this case?
In which one, the Colorado?
Yeah.
So I'm following this, but I'm not the expert. I'm not the one working on this. In the news, if you look up the articles on it, there are negotiations going on now because they are going to have to change the allocations of water, right? Because there's just less water to go around. but who should be at the table because it goes through different countries. You know, it should be something that's talked about between nations and between states and also between tribes.
Yeah.
Because
And who was first there?
and it goes through everybody's land. So I would be curious to look at that as well. So I don't have the insider knowledge on this. I'm just a spectator as well who follows it, because I find it to be an incredibly important issue. And that goes to the original question of, is it a national security issue? And that would be one argument as to, yes, resources and climate change are.
I would underline this too, 100%. It's an issue for security and stuff. It's highly correlated. Yeah, it's a meta crisis. It's not just one system which is failing. It's more than that. But I have the feeling that the consciousness, especially I'm from Germany, here in Germany, isn't at that point that even climate crisis is related to mass migration or coming up mass migration. I'm not sure 100% if this is in the majority of the people is dealing with this thinking. And yeah, because first we talked about, we have to save the planet. Yeah, and maybe it's more we have to save humanity, not the planet. So yeah, I guess we're not 100% conscious about this mass migration thing coming up with the climate. My ideal wish would be having no borders anymore in sense of preventing us from people coming in and stuff like that. And it's also correlated to Afghanistan. And you saw all this mess. Yeah, you can't go in somewhere and change everything, but you can create open spaces where the people can leave if they don't want such a system, and then maybe we can have a better discussion. But it's not functioning, especially in Europe. Total disaster. Yeah? When you see what happened in Greece and stuff like that, or now in border to Poland and stuff like that, it's terrible. And the politics, yeah, not dealing with it, just not talking about it. Sometimes I have the feeling, and the consciousness is not there. So I guess it will be a surprise for people in the wealthier countries, and I'm afraid that it's been discussed, or that it will be discussed from the wrong dimension or from the wrong perspective when the people coming in. Yeah, therefore we have to have some education and a better communication. And coming back to this, we have to have this open communication where we able to bring in the different dimensions and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm a bit worried. Let's call it like that.
We all are.
I'd like to come back to Dickson's question. How can we push them to take action? And how can we get into real action here, starting from the Larnaca-Conferences? Do you have any idea, Dickson, which is very profound and very concrete?
Yeah, just to, I think I like what Marcus said, that, you know, I think Marcus touched to one of the questions that we had, which is, have we forgotten who we are? I think, Marcus, I think you can identify yourself with the people who are suffering. I think I could see you are not just talking, but it's something that really seems to be affecting you when you see what's going on. And I think this is where we need to start. So who are we? When you see an Afghan, do you see yourself? You know, and I think because this is what will make you to take action. I can tell you, Jürgen, everything that I think we should do. But if we don't start the race there, knowing, agreeing that we are one. If I see Marcus in trouble, I feel the pain. I think that's where we need to start. And for me, Marcus, just trying to answer Jürgen's question. Well, opening doors, it's a good thing. But I think there are other things that we could do to help, because even Europe opened all the doors and told all the refugees and migrants to leave their countries and come to Europe. They would be more than happy to do that. But I think we would be solving the problem. We need to manage migration. And one of the things I usually, or one of the things that I believe is that wealthy nations need to do more. Like now we are talking about climate change. It's forcing people out. They need to take action, support those developing countries to mitigate the effects of climate change. And when people are comfortable, people don't like moving, don't like leaving their culture. I can tell you that. But people think, oh, these people just want to come to our country. No, they don't want to leave their homeland. Most of them, they would rather stay there. But then they find themselves pushed out. So if we are to mitigate these forces, then first, climate change, because I can tell you, this is going to be one of the most push factor that we are going to be dealing with going forward. And so if we can address, and that's why I said I'm very disappointed by the COP26 outcome. Why can they say that we are not going to subsidize fossil fuels again, coal? Is that difficult to say? And they know the truth about it. But you saw what happened. They refuse to actually acknowledge that one is a problem. And this will come back to bite us. All of us, not only those guys who made that decision, but all of us. So I think, Marcus, first, we need to support those people who are vulnerable to the effect of climate change. And then look at other factors that make people move, like poverty. People, like I can tell you here, people like to work. Yeah, but there are no opportunities. So why can't wealthy nations invest more? Provide those opportunities to those people. They are not gonna move again. They'll build their country. And Marcus, you'll be proud to come and visit their countries, And I think this is one of the things that we need to be campaigning for. Let wealthy nations do more to invest. Let them, not donations, investment, because that one empowers people, create opportunities for them. The other thing that I think maybe could be a concrete action is to harmonize, the way countries respond to migration. You see, like when I look at Europe, Marcus, perhaps you don't know that if people came to Germany today, but I think your current leader is fantastic. He has she has such a big heart. And I don't know what's going to happen when she leaves. She's one of my role models, I can tell you. Now, you believe this, but in most countries in Western Europe, if there was a civil war in my country, for example, and I fled and came to your country, first, because it's a civil war, I would not really, as my asylum claim would not actually be accepted, because it's like it's a civil war. It's a big problem there. It's a country that is has broken systems. Now, that's why I'm saying we need to harmonize the way people see, or countries respond to issues of migration. Like today, we saw those, again, I spoke about the problem at the Poland, between Poland and Belarus. There's a crisis there. I mean, well, we can come up with all reasons why those people should not be protected. But they are dying. And that's why I said, the first thing we need to agree on, if we are even to take any action, is, do we know who we are? Are you a human being? If yes, then we should not watch as those lives perish.
Dickson, may I just add something here? Because I am thinking you are going exactly into the direction that I would like to also hint the group to as well. I believe you are speaking about, right, becoming humans again, understanding why does it matter to care for other humans as well. And when I look at our panel here today, I believe everyone has chosen to be part of this conference because somehow they have already started to care about other human beings, and actually migration and maybe also solving the issues behind that is dear to their heart. So I would be finding it so inspiring if we could hear also from our visitors here today why they actually chose to be part of this conference, what made them interested in actually caring about migration topics. That would be wonderful and maybe inspiring to all of us to understand how can we make more people interested into the topic. My dear visitors, Janine, Ortelt, and Eva Maria, would you like to share with us actually why did you choose the conference today and being with us today here? What makes you interested in the topic?
I can start, if you like, since
Absolutely.
you mentioned my name at first. I think it's starting to hit really home. I mean, when I live in Düsseldorf, and when I walk the streets, like just yesterday, I visited a friend's house and I walked back and I was looking at an entrance of a house, and there was this man just living there, right? And with his belongings around him, and it's awful, right? You walk home to your nice little cozy heated house and you see this man and you think like, what can I do? Or you're in your car and you stop at a traffic light and there's this person looking at you with very hungry eyes and asking for money. And that's all around us, like in the park, there are lots of people sleeping on the roads, and it's getting bigger and bigger, and that's where I feel like we have to do something. But I'm also not really sure what to do, right? Like what is the right action? But it's really hitting home, and it's awful to watch that. So that's why if you look at it, you suffer yourself, and I think that's important. We have to open up ourselves to feel the suffering of these people, right? And then you might change yourself because you look at them and you might even have eye contact, and I think that's the start. And I try to teach that to my daughter as well, to really see these people and not like walk and pass them by. I think that's maybe the first step, but it's a little step.
It absolutely is, right? Returning back to our compassion that we have for other human beings and not being dissociated. Yes. And you did that through an experience in your environment. And I would be so curious to also hear from our other two visitors, Ortelt and Eva Maria, how they actually came into the topic. What's inspiring for you guys in mass migration? Why did you choose to be here today?
Yeah, I can start. So Eva Maria is speaking here. Thanks for the invitation. So for me, I think the mass integration is a topic what we hear about every day. So I also need to be, let's say, honest, and I can say that I'm not an expert on this topic, but that's why I really would like to use each, let's say, possibility to learn more about it. And today is a very great opportunity to do so.
That's wonderful. And if I may, because we know each other very well, may I ask you, I know you are very engaged also for street children in South America. So may I ask you, how did that happen for you? Why did you actually choose to be involved in something where you care about other people?
Yeah, I think this is, let's say, a lifelong topic, because also my parents are very engaged, and we always learn that we are, let's say, more or less born on the very positive side of this world, and that we have a lot of privilege, and that's why we should support others. And then when I was quite young, so around my 20s, I went to Ecuador to get this experience. And for me, it was really, let's say, a very intensive one, impressive one. And I also learned a lot during this time. And that's why, yeah, I'm still very engaged in this, let's say, organization to support others. And I can really see what we can do as long as we really want to do it.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. So again, here, the topic of getting involved and experiencing firsthand what is happening for you has also helped you to then again shape your mind into a certain direction. Thank you. Wonderful. Yes. Hans, did you want to say something? Yes, you look like it.
Just as a participant, dimensions of questions back to the experts. In the first part, coming from less knowledge about migration, I've searched for those kind of examples where people were moving because of climate change. Okay, that we have in our country as well. In the North Rhine-Westphalia, where the flood came over. So moving is okay, but that's getting more to the point of migration happening due to climate change, and I'm searching for an example of that. So that migration is not only being political because of war, because of poverty, but due to climate change. Yeah, I'm searching for an example. Perhaps it's totally easy.
Yes, something I can offer to you is that actually many wars are starting because of resource scarcity in the end. And of course, resource scarcity is increasing when climate change is increasing. So when we think about desertation in Africa, for example, or we think about deforestation in Latin America. So these are in the end the ultimate consequences to people fighting about less and less resources. And then of course, it looks like a war because of people fighting each other, but it's actually because of the climate change that has happened there.
And I'll quickly jump into, I believe many of the island nations right now would be good examples of just direct climate change. I think it's and Dickson, you may know more than myself just because of your expertise in this. But I believe like the Solomon Islands, not only have they been affected by just conflict, internal conflict, but there's also direct sea level rise that's making different areas just disappear. Not a great example, but temporary displacement and migration. I can give examples in the US after hurricanes. We've had severe hurricanes over the past, 5-10 years, starting with Hurricane Katrina, that displaced, coastal area. And again, temporarily, but at large scales. And I was just looking at the other day, there's, I should bring it up on my notes, the Center for, I have it, hold on. The Center for National Center, hold on, I got it right here, because it's got some really interesting numbers in the US. National Centers for Environmental Information. They keep a tally of climate-related natural disasters in the US, as well as the amount of dollars that it took to recover from it in the billions, and also the lives lost. And it's just an internal, again, resource for the US, but it is just a snapshot of something interesting to look at.
So is it open source? You may try to share a link or something like that?
I can share a link right now. Yeah, I'll put it in the chat.
That's also the question I just wanted to ask with these going to Dickson, which action can I take? Where in my mind it comes to organizations that do already things, and that's it. No, but there are already organization NGOs which have the capacity and also the connection for helping. And yeah, the question is there any recommendation? Is there a portal, a platform for this already out there, but normal media isn't communicating about? And is it shareable here in the chat? And so we can have a next step on this platform to inform ourselves. Perhaps this is a small step, inform ourselves.
Yes. Normally, UNHCR is seen as the face when it comes to addressing international protection issues, but oftentimes, like when we talk about climate change, you see the Red Cross, you see IOM, Save the Children. So these are some of it's like they are the first responders. I mean, they are the people who are on the ground when things happen. And this is because sometimes you find we have what we call IDPs, internally displaced persons. And so for UNHCR, they work with people who have been able to cross the border. So, but if it's happening within a country, you find sometimes it's very difficult even to access support, because UNHCR has to be invited by the country that is experiencing that. But we find organizations like IOM, Save the Children, and the Red Cross, they do respond. But what I was trying to push through is that we, as a people, I'll give you an example. For me, for many years, I used to work with refugees from around the world, and we would go for meetings and push resolutions. I used to be in Geneva most of the time, pushing for resolutions to go through. But then at one point, I asked myself, is it, you see, because what I was doing, I was waiting for them at this other end, waiting for the people to come, But then I asked myself, is it possible to do something back home to prevent people from coming? What can I do? And I started a small organization and felt that if I can empower someone, make that person have a livelihood, then I would be doing something to, manage migration. This is what I mean by management. It's important. It's small, but like now, the organization that I work for has been able to empower more than 6,000 women. And now, if these, for example, if they didn't have anything, perhaps they would be thinking how to move, how to leave. And most of people from this country, from Kenya, especially ladies, they are going to the Middle East. And that's where they come face to face with terror. You know, they abused, they you know, their human rights are violated. Some even die. So that's a small thing that you can do. Please do it. And like Janine, she talked about seeing someone, just that feeling that, hey, what can I do? You know, that's the beginning. You know, I don't think, because can you imagine? Look at the multiplying effect. If we all did something, you know, if everyone did something to maybe manage migration, if you have a business and you felt, maybe I should work with someone in this country and establish my business there, it's going to give employment to those people. And that will actually, I'm not against people moving. I'm against people just moving just because they think or they perceive that where they're going, they'll have better lives, which is not the case. We know it. So, so I think, Hans, those are some of the organizations that mostly try to respond to people moving, particularly due to climate change. But of course, when they cross the international border, you find there are so many of them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But as you stated, they respond and they do not take action preventing something. And I found these small steps, with the very small steps, like looking at a person we take into our next breakout, and having a short break here now for about 10 minutes. So yeah, we see us at 6 again. The participants, the audience is invited to switch the rooms. Tamara and Dickson, please stay here. To getting in another round at 6 p.m. And now have a break, open the window, take some fresh air, write questions down in the chat, and yeah, see you at 6.
In 8 minutes from now. Enjoy your break.
This discussion.
Yes, please be welcome. We are about to start the next breakout session. We're just, having a little break, and I think Jürgen and Dickson were having a little chit chat here in between, but we are starting at 6 now. So it's actually a good moment to start the breakout session again. We're already happy you are here. And Tyron, Okoth, and Sharon, if you are with us as well, you might want to say hello to us, give us a little sign of your attendance. And Mike, we appreciate having you here and also opening your microphone and talking to us, so this can be an interactive session. Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Okoth, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm a university student. We got the link from club leader. He invited us to join your meeting so that we can hear your progress. And here we are today.
Wonderful. Thank you for coming in. And I think we would all love to also hear from you about your situation and what you think about what you have heard so far during the first breakout, especially also to the question that Dickson raised about what are the little things that we can do to maybe have proactive initiatives towards mass migration. What can we do to make people's lives better, actually, so they don't have to migrate?
Actually, what I think on our side, like in our country, what makes people migrate, like the mass migration, is the cultural diversity. And then when the cultural diversity actually affects everything, to the extent that it also affects the economic growth of the respective places. Because when people do migrate, there is no like development going on. Everything is just at halt. Yeah, basically that's what I think.
When there is a brain drain out of the country?
Pardon?
When there is a brain drain, so people leaving who are the drivers, who are smart.
No, actually, it's kind of like the residents only.
What do you think, what could be done to prevent that, in your opinion?
In my opinion, I think the government should lay down some personnel that can help the communities that are affected to understand that cultural diversity should not affect us, and we should learn to embrace each other's culture. Yes.
So you are referring especially to ethnical diversities and conflicts between different groups of people in a country?
Yeah, exactly.
Of course, I heard also that the institutions of a state or a nation are responsible also for their people in order to provide arrangements of social, may there be social arrangements or political arrangements that they can support their own people. Is that right?
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing, and also thank you for engaging in the conversation here. Maybe we could raise the same question to Mike, because we already know his microphone is working and he has spoken to us, asking him also what he thinks, what could be done to actually proactively help people to stay in their country, to actually don't want to leave their home, because we heard from Dickson before, people actually like usually their homes, they leave for pressing reasons from there. So Mike, your ideas on that?
I think if there is like no conflict and violence and that or natural, an act of God, something unpredictable, then it's up to us to care for our fellow beings. And that's why we have the government to provide for the social security, and that I think is the key where making people feel safe and feel growth where they are. And I think that that can prevent future migrations, and it can help people that are affected maybe go back. And that's like I think millions of people in the world, and we need that maybe a common agreement, like a social contract that can be formally expressed in a multi-stakeholder public-private partnership that can cover all those factors that that push people to migrate when they don't want, and allow people that want to go back.
Thank you for sharing that. Absolutely. I think it's also confirming what Dickson said before, right? That people usually don't migrate because they want to, but they have to. And Dickson has raised the question, so welcome to everyone who has just joined us. He has raised the question of what could we do proactively actually to help that causes for migration are not happening actually. And he was referring especially to climate changes as one of the reasons why people are leaving their countries, but of course also other reasons that could be relevant as well, and what we could do proactively to help people actually sustain a livelihood in the country they are born in, or they are raised in, or they want to stay in. So also opening the panel here to our other joiners as well on your thoughts to this question.
Hello, everybody. I think this is a very, very big question you you asked to Dickson, and there's no short answer. The answer isn't possible to give in 1 hour and not in 1 week, I think. But we can start with some things. Well, how could we change a system like Islamischer Staat, ISS, which causes a war and have the refugees which came from Syria to us? That's very big for us as little people. I think there are many different reasons that causes flights. But when I look at mass migration, I also see the climate crisis as the thing who just started or hasn't started yet, like I expected.
That's an interesting comment back towards actually the discussion that we had beforehand. Has it not yet started, the mass migration because of climate change? And Tamara, Dickson, I would like to invite you here also to maybe respond. Let's have a conversation around that.
Well, I do believe it started. You know, we look at areas in the Sahel that definitely are seeing major migration due to climate. In the past breakout, I mentioned other kind of temporary internal displacement due to climate and major national or natural disasters that are happening. We can look at, and if we took into account also animals, we would see gigantic issues with the ecosystem due to climate and mass migration. Take Australia and the major fires that happened 2 years ago now. Was it 2 years ago? I feel like maybe time has stood still in the last year. But I think that it is definitely happening. It has been happening for a while. It's just when we get touched by it personally, we start to acknowledge it. And maybe some of us have been blessed to not be touched by it as personally. And yet it is only a matter of time that absolutely everybody in the world will be touched by it.
Yeah, I think, again, as I said, there's a lot of internal migration happening. So, and again, Tamara, I'll come back to you. We don't know about this, you know, communication. I mean, people choose what to report. So you don't report when people migrate internally. But it's happening. It's happening. It's only that it hasn't boiled to that point, but we're almost there. And I can tell you, again, the decision of the leaders that attended the COP26 conference, that decision is going to affect all of us, because it shows that they are not serious. They don't think it's going to be something that can destabilize the entire world. So it's really sad. But yes, it's happening, and we need to see what we can do as individuals and communities, but also at the same time, we should not get tired of pushing those in authority to do what they must do to protect us. I don't know whether you guys know that we now have a new right. I think it's the newest, actually, the newly recognized right, which is right to a healthy and sustainable environment. I don't know whether you guys have known that now you have a right to a healthy and sustainable environment. So what does that mean? Well, it might not mean much given that it's not a binding agreement legally. It's not a legally binding agreement. But what it means is that we have a reference point where we can push our agenda within the municipality or national laws. Because you remember, for those of you who are in the legal field, there was the right to water. That was a right that was recognized in 2010. Now, if you look at most countries, most people have been able to push, and those have now become national laws. And from that point, people can actually claim those rights. So yes, it's a very positive sign. And I think even us, like us here, you know, sometimes I say, if you are not outraged, you are not paying attention, you know? If you are not outraged at what's going on right now, you are not paying attention. You better wake up, pay attention. So with this new right, we can actually hold these polluters to account. Yeah, we can say we don't want this pollution. You know, by the way, the G20, I think half of the pollution comes from them, 50%. So we can actually target them and tell them, we do not need this. It's our right. So I think there are some things that we can do at the international level. But for me, I like those little things that we can do from, you know, just like, I don't know, Janine, are you still there or she left? You know, she talked about how she saw someone, you know, and she began to think, you know, started asking questions. How can I help? And I think that's where really, that's what matters to me.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Dickson. Oops, somewhere is the audio open. What we can do while we are in this situation, that's totally right. That's why I'm working with a NGO to help to support refugees in Germany. But I did understand your question as what can we do that we don't have a situation from which refugees have to flee. And that's even bigger, this question.
Yeah, it's a coffee table. Dickson and I talked about that.
Yeah, go ahead, Julian.
Yeah, what can we do in preventing such leaves, in preventing such flights, in establishing good conditions in the home countries of the families and people who leave their countries or who are intended to leave. And maybe it's a good step forward to come into action with how Dickson called it, managing migration. And Christine, what you said falls under this point, managing migration. How can we establish measures and actions that help people staying in their country, staying in their culture, and also improving their conditions in their own country with the help of, for example, here, us as Europeans, but not as a donation, as Dickson said, but as something which is called investments, so that they have the possibility or the opportunity to earn an income, so that they are not depending on others.
Yes, yes. So, Christine, that's the conversation we were having, because let's look at the long-term solution. Sometimes we like quick fixes. You know, we just give a donation and they are good. They are happy. We did. You see, when people give, they feel happy. They say, "Well, we did something." They talk about it, but have we addressed the root cause of the problem? So
Yeah.
I think. Mhm.
Sorry. Yeah, and sometimes we need quick fixes when someone needs some clothes, when someone needs something to eat, or if someone needs support in doing his daily life with filling out formulas or things like that.
Yes,
Just
I
to say-
agree. I agree. Christine, this is what this is what humans do. That's what we said. How do you respond to a need? Obviously, that's obvious. To me, it's obvious. But what I'm saying is we need to think at let's think about what we can do to actually manage. You see, when you manage, it means you need plans, all right? You cannot manage if you don't have a plan in place. So that's what I'm talking about. I'm not saying we cannot respond to the immediate needs. That one will always be there. And by the way, that's what humans are for. I mean, if I see you are hungry, I don't need to ask what I should do. It's obvious. I need to give you food. So I think, but then we need to see how we can actually build a better, sustainable home for everyone.
So I think I'd love to jump in and kind of chat. We've talked a lot about a lot of the issues and a lot of the crises and kind of these gigantic challenges that we face. And I'd love to chat about why I'm excited and what makes me really hopeful about tackling some of these things. And it kind of comes from what I'm working on right now, the company Systems Changer. And one stakeholder that we haven't really talked about in the conversation, which is businesses and entrepreneurs and innovators, really diving in to work on innovative solutions to problems that we face. And I think that's one area that when we look at tackling small problems in all of these systems, we do have innovators and we should support innovators that are doing that. And that comes on multiple levels. That comes from supporting them with, outreach and, telling people about them, to investment. And I can only speak to what's happening in the US. So I can say, there's a lot of businesses and entrepreneurs who are making it their mission to tackle systemic and parts of systems to help change lives and to help change these migration issues and to help change SDG challenges, right? I'll speak to just to give an example, ideas that I'm excited about with, creating access to different rights and to different needs. So in Afghanistan, when we talked about, I talked at the beginning, there's a gigantic problem with famine, which also inherently has to do with people being unbanked. So new applications that allow access to banking can then allow access to funds, which can then help alleviate hunger, which can then, we've got these allow for trust in institutions, which help change people's lives. There's other programs that or other new technologies that are happening with telemedicine. And if we look at in different areas, women don't have access to doctors because they're not allowed to see male doctors, and females drop out of the workforce because once they get married, they're not allowed to be in the workforce. But telemedicine is allowing for women to work from home, to see other women who need a resource to healthcare. And they can do that now with that sort of access because that sort of technology is becoming available to them. And so those are the things that make me really excited about tackling some of these issues.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing, Tamara. And I would like to invite maybe also Mark into our conversation, because I'm sure he also has some inspiring things to share that could give us hope also for the future.
I don't know if they give hope. I just have some pointed remarks. Actually, as a reformed IT specialist, I'm pretty allergic to tech fixes. I have to say that my experience as a person that's also involved in permaculture and organic gardening, food first makes the most sense to me. If I look at Afghanistan, I don't know what bank account on my handy that I don't have is going to get me. I need to have something to eat for me and for my children. That's why I'm really interested in food first. I've always been interested in food first as far as development cooperation is concerned. Because one of the reasons that you do flee is because you have nothing to eat. And the other things that are for me difficult are things like charters and papers that have been written and things that have policies that have been drawn up. And again, that's very far away from having a distinct feeling of hunger. It doesn't really work for me. I see it is a complex situation, so that means you have to look at it the way you would do it with as they call it in the onion problem, that you first tackle this layer and then you go to the next one and you go to the next one. And I think the first layer is actually just really food, because the migration, I mean, there are several authors that wrote books about wars, and a lot of them said that all wars are resource wars. So assuming that, then climate change is making access to those resources very difficult. And that's not going to change. I mean, I believe that there is no way to stem the migration, the flight of large numbers of people within, I don't know how many years. I don't think it's going to happen. I think what's going to happen is, I mean, take for example what Germany has done. What has their migration strategy been? To give Erdogan money to keep them out of Germany. And these kind of things are just going to happen. I mean, let's assume that these people are going to be in camps and going to be in refugee camps. What can we do to make them, to a certain degree, self-sufficient? Because if we say that the average person is going to be in a refugee camp for 12 years, then I don't think it's going to go any other way. So those are my statements.
Thank you for sharing that, Mark. And I think actually we have a few people also on the call who have experience actually with migration, and also maybe even migration camps or staying in facilities for migrants. And if I could reach out to Ibrahim or also Mike to share a little bit of their experience with us, I think that would be wonderful. If I may invite you in, gentlemen, into our conversation.
I can speak, or
yes,
you
please.
want to go? Yeah, that's true. I am a second generation refugee due to the 1974 invasion war. Yes, so and I was just writing here on the chat. I have this plan, and this is the solution to the problems, and I need funding to solve. I'm just sending it here. It's a presentation of my work. I think I'm hitting like nail with this because it addresses antagonism from a scientific perspective, from ecosystem, from and that connects with the psychology of the market that can create value for I mean, by solving these problems, it can having peace. It's known that it increases the GDP and the quality of well-being. And actually, so I was inside this the social development index, something I'm developing, and it addresses a lot of the United Nations goals, and but I think these stakeholders, even that enforce the monetary policies, that we could distribute that in a sense, and so we can take decisions like as a network, instead of more risky for systemic risk or systematized risk, like rigid hierarchical structures, and that's like it could save a lot of money for the civil society as a stakeholder, because or for the taxpayer or the consumer that pays a high price on a product because there's shortage, or there's not much supply. I think so. The issue of power relations and their dominance, we can analyze that, and we can have a scientific basis for political discourse. I mean, social discourse, and like how we can address these problems. And I think giving our consent, and I think you shouldn't be sad because we do have a solution. I mean, and the solution is to have a harmonious, maybe more. Yes, live together in symbiotic and synergetic principles that we see from nature. I think that's the way that we can arrive at consensus and so we have more legitimate systems and legitimate forms of government, or help to do that. Yes, and this is very important because it acknowledges that each part of the whole has a saying, a plane. It affects everything. So it needs an identity to do that. So I thank you very much for allowing me to express or find my identity here with you.
Thank you for sharing with us, Mike. Absolutely appreciate it. And Hans, may I hand over to you for a second?
brings me back to you just put the link to your presentation, and I clicked on it and I saw a presentation and I thought, oh my God, 45 slides. Brings me back to the thing that we have a Padlet where you can raise the question to the whole audience. I've put the link in the chat for you, Mike, so that you can go to the Padlet and ask your question perhaps there, make a nice picture and some contact details if you want to, even an email address or something like that. And so that everyone can join perhaps on solving, at least with small steps, your question.
That's a great reminder. Thank you.
I understand. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks. And you could also, of course, enter the link to your presentation there as well. Absolutely.
It's a big work, and I think yes, it will be nice to design, because it's like also the centralized part in it. So and yes,
yeah.
So you can reduce the risk and the social costs, and less suffering. And less, yes, that is it.
It sounds very interesting, though I must admit I didn't fully got it, and that's why I'm happy to read something about it. And to go a bit on further, I'm just curious which participant here in the room we haven't heard. I think it was Heike, Tyrone. So in the expectation to our panelists, or in the perhaps even answering the question, which steps should we do we have to take? What comes into your mind? And Heike, you opened your microphone, so it's up to you.
Yeah, thanks. I was just thinking of one story I heard, or I got to know when I was visiting Bosnia-Herzegovina. It's a complete different situation. It's not kind of hunger and actual war situation. And I was thinking of your question, Dickson. So what should we do? I think in this example, Germany should take the responsibility and do not go there and follow the steps of the brain drain and buy out good educated people in Bosnia-Herzegovina to put them into health system in Germany and offer them German courses. They're students of medicine, yeah. And when they enter medicine studies in Bosnia and Herzegovina, they get free a German language course and the opportunity to come after their studies to Germany, but not working as a doctor, yeah, working as a Pflegekraft,
nurse
in the care system of Germany. And I met such a lot of young Bosnian Herzegovinas, and I was in Sarajevo and I was talking to young people, and they say, yeah, take pictures of the city because the city will die out. I'm the last one left of my final exam class of the Abiturklasse. Yeah, I'm the last one. And so if we have a kind of a brain drain and everybody leaves, the rest, even if they love the country, even if they have enough to eat, they leave the country too because everybody has gone yet. So it's a complete different situation. But I was really upset about it because I didn't heard about it before, and And well, that's the kind of other we need workers from different countries here. Yes, but we buy out other countries.
Yes, yeah, that's quite. You see, if you ask Germany, they would say, well, we are providing job opportunities. They are not there. And my point is, they need to create job opportunities there. That's what I'm saying. They should not be taking people out of their country, because this is not sustainable. I said, even if Europe opened their doors for everyone to come, that would not be sustainable. It's not going to work. So I think we need to support people to start their places, to start their lives where they are, and let them move freely when they feel they want to. You know, this we call right to freedom of movement. People, they have that freedom, but let them move when they move for a purpose. And they come, for example, to Germany as tourists. I mean, that would be great. You can imagine if Germany did a lot to a country, a developing country, to develop that country, and one day they just see people actually moving to Germany as tourists. I mean, how wonderful would that be? Huh? And you see, they would not just come there, they would spend money there. So meaning they're actually bringing money to Germany. That would be great. I don't know, there's someone, Rebecca and Hans, Ibrahim, we haven't heard from him.
Yes, this would be a wonderful invitation, because we heard that he is a part of representing a refugee group, if I got that correct. And if not, Ibrahim, this would be a great moment to make that right and introduce yourself here with us. So I hope you are with us and hearing us. Yeah, that looks good. You had just unmuted yourself and it looked like it could work, Ibrahim.
Oh, okay. Now, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Okay. My computer has some kind of delay. So, yeah, what is the question exactly? So, what we are working with refugees here in, very close to Munich, and yeah, I'm not sure what the question is. What what maybe you can repeat the question, or what do you expect from my perspective?
Actually, absolutely. We would first of all just like to hear you, because in this panel now a lot of people have spoken, and we think it might be nice to also hear your perspective on topics like migration, why people are leaving, what could give us hope for the future as well, what could be done maybe to help people in their home countries as well. And yeah, just hear also from your experience that you are bringing with you.
Yeah, it's true. Most of the people who are trying to leave their country would prefer to stay there. I think this is true, and they're leaving their country just to find a better life. And therefore, I would agree to that investments in these countries would help, but I'm not very optimistic, because I remember in 2015 when a lot of refugees arrived in Germany, in Europe and Germany especially. exactly the political, the responsible politics said exactly that. We have to see what, to solve the root causes why they are leaving the country. Now, 6 or 7 years later, we didn't see anything from this. There are no solutions. The only solutions they have is to what they call secure the borders and not to let the refugees come in. So this is very frustrating. This is from a political perspective. Good. What I'm doing in Germany is I'm trying to support the people who arrived in Germany. So this is also not very easy, but it's a bit less frustrating. And it's a lot of work. You know the word what Merkel our Chancellor Merkel had said. Wir schaffen das. We will.
We'll make it.
You will make it. Yeah, thank you. We made a lot. This is true. But we can do more. We have still a lot of people who need help from a psychological way, from different for different topics. Sorry, but I'm I just yeah. This is the current situation. Sorry.
That we are currently facing, at least in Germany. And thank you for sharing that. Yes, I think it's so valuable to hear also from, let's say, the first line of people really being out there and working with refugees as well. Thank you. Wonderful. We have a few minutes left in our panel here, and there have been some discussions back and forth. And I am wondering, especially to our participants here, is there any questions still on your mind? Any topic you would like to raise? Anything that has not been mentioned yet or that does not have yet a place here? And I'm looking at you, inviting you all into the conversation again. And I'm seeing pensive faces, Heike, for example, and I'm seeing Mark already smiling. So I believe there might be a few statements left that maybe want to be heard before we part ways today. Handing over to you.
Yeah, I was just dreaming, Rebecca, dreaming about a list of the top 10 what I could do beginning of the day of tomorrow. Like eating no fish from the Pacific, like so personal list of what to do to help that climate and political impact does not force people to leave their country. So a personal list of 10 points what little Heike can do better, because I'm confused and I'm in my daily life even worse until we have the COVID situation, that I lose the perspective too. I'm engaged with my personal problems, with my personal stuff to do, and I have not every day the power, the energy, and the consciousness to act like I should do.
Thank you for sharing that, and I believe that's true for many of us. Absolutely. Mark, may I also invite you back into our conversation?
Yeah, I'd like to weigh in again on this market instrument approach to everything. I don't really believe in it, not at all. Every time the markets are introduced to these areas, what happens? People lose. They lose. It doesn't benefit them. I can't think of any example where new market instruments were used in areas like this that didn't just drain people. And that's why I really believe that you have to concentrate on the things that are important. And for me, it's important to see that the people can stay where they are if they can, but we won't be able to do that. We'll try, we can discuss it. We can do it with our helicopter management strategies that are looking from way up there and looking down and saying, well, we'll put together a few more policies and strategies, and then we'll try and implement that. And then it just kind of like disappears. I think that, again, that food first makes the most sense. And I think that anything that looks like a market, I mean, I'm an economist myself, anything that looks like market instruments to save the day is not going to work.
Is that really the truth, Mark? I think markets have existed for more than 2,000 years, and they had, of course, their rightful place in the human sphere. I wonder.
Depends on which level. Like I said, if you're up in the helicopter, then you're watching the people that are closest to the helicopter. But these people are down on the ground. We're talking about one person per 2,000 that can maybe do business. Is that enough?
Yeah, but does it, generally speaking, against markets? Maybe the framework or the conditions are not right for the people.
They're definitely not right, but since when have we been able to design them so that they were right?
It depends on the societal communication we are having together.
Yeah.
So we as agents, as active agents, have the possibility to change or to bring this into the communication.
It could be on a grassroots level that something happens there, but as soon as organizations are involved in institutions, then I don't really believe it. And that's been my experience in development cooperation in West Africa.
I just wanted to make a comment on that. I personally started, now I'm talking about grassroots. I think Mark agrees with that. And I agree with you, Mark, but as Jürgen has said, I think we should have an open mind because, for example, I started a project in the slums and it was not easy. So we don't expect this to be easy, but with patience and with people, collective effort, I think we can do it. But the point is, people need to do something. So for me, I started with a group in the slums. I told them that you can actually fight poverty on your own. You don't need outside help. And that was the first step, might change their mindset. And I can tell you today, and I invite you to check out Solidarity International Trust. Today, that single group from a slum, there was, you find drugs abuse, you find alcoholism, prostitution, name it. But these same people, they've been able actually to transform. And it's just a mindset. You just change that mindset. Let them start seeing who they are. Make them see that. Let them see that potential. You see, this same group today has created more than 300 other groups. And we are talking about now in terms of money, I mean, they've created more than $3 million US.
I get nervous when people say dollars.
Well, Yeah, I'm saying that because that will be, it's something that you understand. If I told you shillings, you just go back to look at the rate and all that. I just wanted to save you from that trouble.
No, the main thing that was, well, Austrian shillings would be even worse. But the thing that was major for me in what you just said is that they don't need any outside help. That was key for me at the beginning, because that's what I want people to do. I don't want organizations coming from outside that do not engage in participatory organization and dictate how they should be doing business, which goes against the culture. And then when it's time to leave because they're not making enough money, they're gone. And so that's what I'm concerned with. I'm talking about grassroots, but I'm talking about grassroots independence. If the people from the outside with their market instruments decide that they want to help in a way that's participatory, but I mean really participatory from the very beginning, then that's fine with me. But I'm very much against the idea of outside investment coming into places like I've seen the Chinese Democratic Republic is investing quite a bit in West Africa now. And I'm talking about bribes. And this is not conducive to the people's health. It's not conducive to the culture. It's not conducive to their educational systems. And now the Americans are trying to catch up to the Chinese in West Africa. I mean, it's very obvious that it's not something that is
sustainable.
Well, you know what sustainability means in West Africa? It means you're coming next year. Then you'll come again next year after that. That's sustainability. And the people have a different idea of what sustainability is. No one asked them what sustainability was. Sustainability came from New York.
So we are rising. I'm sorry, we are rising the fine questions and digging deeper into discussion when the time is over.
Yeah,
that's not good. But as we have seen, there are many dimensions and many words. We have to be to talk precisely about like market. And I think we should shape how we deal with market as well, but in another session. And as a system, everything is interconnected. For me, it was nice to hear all those little things, those things from food first up to like a communication that the tourists will bring money into the well-fed countries, and that this could be a prospect to all those who should do something. So a wide range, I think, a wide range with Heike's little 10 points list that she could manage a point on that scale as well. And yes, thanks a lot for all those hints, fruits, thoughts. Rebecca, other words for this lovely discussion we had?
No, absolutely not. I think insights was great. And I really loved also hearing from everyone joining here, also their perspective and insights as well. Hans, before we close, and we would like to invite our panelists to a very short recap with us after we have closed this official session. But before we do that, I would like to hand the word back to Tamara and Dickson for one sentence. Actually, we would like to ask you, since this is a social sculpture and we want to move forward together, right? Is there anything that has evolved for you? Any additional ideas, any additional perspectives that you didn't have before we started this conference? Or what is the next step you would like to take after this conference? Very briefly, just as a closing remark.
No, I think it reinforces the idea of thoughtful design and stakeholder input in what you're trying to do and what you're trying to communicate when it comes to the work that you're doing, as well as your priorities, your values, and what you want to put your time towards in order to what Dickson said, remember who you are and what you're going to do.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tamara. And Dickson, a closing remark by you, any additional perspectives, the next step you are taking?
Yeah, from the discussion that we've been having, one of the things that I have, I'll take with me is how to actually take participation as one of the ways of, building that image that we want to see, where we are all involved in tackling this. So that's very important, and I think I have taken it very seriously. But the other thing I would want maybe to highlight going forward is, again, those little things that we take for granted matter a lot. So please, let's keep doing them, and we'll be touching lives as we do so. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dickson. And with that, I would like to close the session here today.